Tim Fisher, you're Director of Practices and Standards at the ASSE in America, and you're here at interconstruct5 in Edinburgh. Tim, the US has a huge multicultural workforce, but it's not just split into English and Latinos, isn't it? There's a lot of other cultures in there.
There absolutely is. I think that was somewhat of a misnomer that you see a lot from the media, that the United States has become a working issue of English versus Spanish, and that's actually not quite true. There's actually a lot of different cultures. It's interesting, if you look at the statistics, the biggest number of Polish-speaking workers outside of Poland is actually New York and Chicago. So that's something that we have a lot of. Fine, what I would say, construction-type work for arts-type stuff, stone cutting, specialized furniture making, primarily all comes from Eastern Europe. So there's actually many cultures and languages outside of just English and Spanish in the U.S.
And it's not just the language barrier you have to get past, is it? There's very specific cultural issues with each nationality.
There absolutely is. Different cultural issues, types of work, feelings about how work is done, as far as how do you relate to your supervisor, taking, what I would say, orders or direction, and deciding on outlines for work and planning. There's a lot of definitely cultural differences. I think that the United States worker for the last part of the 100 years has been famous for, they're definitely going to tell you what they think, and they like to complain, and I'm one of them myself, so I can say that. But what happens, I think, with a lot of different cultures is they're used to the boss is always right. So they're waiting for the boss to tell them what to do and exactly how to do it, and a lot of times the U.S. doesn't work that way. So I think that's led to some issues. I think consumption of alcohol on work sites is absolutely a problem, and that's something that we are working on.
And how about injury statistics and people getting injured on site? Is there a problem with people not reporting, say, near misses, or not reporting small injuries that could lead to a bigger problem because this issue of sort of bravado?
Absolutely. We call it, with a lot of we actually have a group at ASSE called Safety Professionals and Latino Workforce, SPAL, and that's something they're working on, what we call machismo. So, or machismo, however you want to say that. Machismo basically is the feel that it's me versus the work, or me versus the machine. And there's a reticence to say when you're injured or opportunities, and that's something that we have to work with. And I think that's an important issue in the U.S. And statistically, we know that Hispanic workers, for example, suffer higher rates of injury than do non-Hispanic workers, and those are even for reported injuries, by the way. So we do know that there's something that we have to work on there.
What about the issue of workers being able to take control of their own workplace? Is there a sense that there are certain situations that what will be, and no matter what they do, they can't affect the outcome?
That's interesting, because that's absolutely true. We see a lot of workers that come from different countries, and it's, well, if it was meant to be, it's meant to be, and there's really nothing I can do about it. So if I'm going to get hurt, it's just fate, and we don't believe that in the United States, and that's something that we're trying to work with all our workers on, to educate them that it does not have to be that way.
What about the health issue? You mentioned in your presentation the fact that Americans are getting bigger. How is this affecting the construction work that's going on in the US at the moment?
It's huge. I mean, yeah, there's no question that that Americans are getting larger as we speak, not just taller, but wider also. And there is a lot of issues that go with that. Fall protection harnesses in the United States, for example, are made from 130 to 310 American pounds. And you can have a very large man, and if you put equipment on him and those type of things, he's already over the 310-pound weight. On the other side, we have a lot of women that are entering the workplace right now, and 130 pounds. Really, there's some women even fully loaded with equipment does not come to that. So work protection harnesses, for example, something we have to work on. Health actually is something that's getting big in the United States. Wellness, that type of thing. And we're looking more at that, because there's no question that there is a weight problem overall in the U.S., and there's something that we need to work with.
What can the rest of the world learn from the American experience? We're obviously here at Interconstruct to share best practice. What do you think are the key messages you're here to tell everybody else about?
I think if I would say anything is that diversity is a strength, and I think we need to recognize it. I think the history of the United States is interesting, because if you look at the history of the U.S., there's no doubt that our diversity, if it's merged into one, has been, I think, the greatest strength of the United States. Unfortunately, we make it a weakness too much. So that's something that we're going to work on, and hopefully if we can get that message across at Interconstruct, that diversity is a strength if it's managed correctly.
How important do you think it is to use the health and safety networks that are all over the world to share this best practice and to get across the good examples so that people can learn from your example?
Oh, I think it's very important. I have networks with a lot of the people here, with IOSH and also in other countries in the Pacific Rim and all that. I use them virtually every single day as far as problem solving, working with SH&E professionals all over through the world, and I think it's absolutely critical that we maintain these relationships.
And given the size of America as well, it's obviously key to use these networks to make sure all the messages are getting across.
No question. I mean, the population in the U.S. is actually increasing somewhat, and one of the biggest reasons is immigration, and I think that's going to continue. And if you look at it, contrary to what we see in a lot of the media, we need immigrants in the United States, and we always have historically. So that's not going to change. And as we get into some of the construction work that we're going to talk about here at this event, there's absolutely no question that we need immigration and immigrants to help us do some of the work that we need to have done.
Thank you for your time, Tim.
Thank you.